Big dog.
What up, everybody? Welcome to Coffee Hour with Paul. Glad to have you here. It is hump day. You made it to the crest. Everything from here is downhill. Thanks for joining us. And hopefully, you've had a good week so far. Hopefully, you've been catching up on all the other parts to this series because this is, again, right here at the middle of the week. We're at at the end of a series. This is part 6 of our services and electrical equipment series. So we're right there at the crest of it. We probably have a couple more days. I'm probably going to push to the end of this week in order to finish up this series because we have a lot more to talk about, grounding and bonding when it comes to these applications and all that stuff. So quite a bit that we still have to cover. I did want to take a segment this morning to talk a little bit about some things that I see on social media. So I do get an opportunity to kind of go look at that. So lately, my target is Instagram, which ironically is probably just as bad as TikTok when it comes to what I call the wannabes. Not y'all. Y'all are here. Y'all are dedicated to learning the code. I am sure none of you go on social media and just spout out something without quantifying it, without giving a code reference. But you know what? There's those out there that do. I should probably start a series where I just go looking for all those people and expose them. And reason for that is, you know what? I guess one of my and do me a favor. We're going to get into our lesson today. We got a lot to cover. So if do me a favor in the comments, let me know who you are, where you're from, your name, what you got going on. If you've got a test coming up, or you're studying for an exam, or you struggled or something like that. Let me know. I will tell you, Doug sent a question in here about sizing MV. I can be honest with you, Doug. I've never seen that on a master's exam, never. And I helped write the Texas exam, so I've never seen it. Neutral loads. Again, calculating the neutral is a matter of understanding what your maximum unbalanced load is. So whether it's medium voltage or regular, it's irrelevant. It's all about what the neutral load is. And so you have to understand how to do a neutral load calculation. That's it. So I am not ever, and I helped write the exam, I'm never. So if it tells you a value in neutral, then in the question, then that's what you use. But you've given not enough information to be able to actually confirm or do any type of calculation for MV, medium voltage applications for a neutral calculation. Whether it's medium voltage or whether it's regular, falls under 2,000 volts, typically 1,000 volts or less applications, you have to do a load calculation to determine what the neutral load is, and you side according to the maximum unbalanced load or maximum imbalanced load. So again, that's the best I can give you on that. So I don't typically do medium voltage stuff here. That type of thing. We can talk code about it, but I don't typically get into sizing. When it gets to medium voltage, your engineer should be the one sizing it. So I would be very leery of whether or not that was actually on any Texas exam, considering I helped write that exam. So never once in my class, any of our sessions that I sat in, did we ever review a calculation for medium voltage application. Okay, so just saying. All right, so anyhow, we're going to get into that today, but I also want to talk about this thing on social media where everybody wants to be an expert. And I don't know it all, but when you look at things like social media, TikToks, Facebooks, and whatnot, everybody's an expert behind the keyboard, right? They never post a code reference, but yet they want to argue every reference as if you have to prove anything to somebody. We don't have to prove anything. The code is the code. You post a reference, it is. You may disagree with it, but it is what it is. One of the examples on there was, I think Bearded Inspector posted a picture of SER being secured to a raceway or a pipe that was abandoned. And the fact of the matter is, it's still not acceptable for you to mount and tie wrap your SCR to a gas line, whether it's being used or not. It's irrelevant. It's not listed. It's not designed to support a cable assembly, things like that. It's not a screw. It's not the tie wraps are okay, but not the piping system. People say, well, what is it going to hurt? It's not a matter of what it's going to hurt. It's a matter of what the code says. And if you don't like the code and you want to deviate from it, don't cry if you get caught and you get your job rejected and you go, well, that's stupid. We should be able to do this and do that. No, just learn what to do right. And just because it's conveniently a gas pipe there doesn't mean I can tie wrap to it. Well, it's not going anywhere. I get it. I could take non-metallic sheath cable and probably bury it out in the ground and it's going to last longer than you and me, right? As long as the sheathing's not damaged and everything like that, because the conductors inside of it, okay, they're equivalent to TW or THHN, okay? But they're not equivalent to THWN-2, even though typical THHN is dual rated, THHN/THWN, it's not evaluated for that. Now, point being is I could put it in the ground, it's probably going to outlast you and me, but that's not what the code allows. Same with SCR cable. It's okay outside in a wet location, but it's not okay outside in a wet location underground. Well, it's going to be fine. No, it's not. And we don't know that. So that's why we follow the rules in the NEC, whether you like it or not. And I tell people this all the time, but it's amazing to go on social media and read what some of these keyboard code experts will say. It literally, I'm sitting there going, is this what we're training? This is the problem. Now, this is the negative side to social media. Doug, it's for a different time, Doug. I'm not going to get into medium voltage on this one here. So sorry. And that sounds like an engineering type question. So sorry. All right. So it's probably not the show for you, my friend. Sorry. So this right here is interesting. This is a wire waffle. Just another piece of equipment that you can use that allows multiple cables. And I using this as an example because this was posted over on Instagram. Racketeer is now selling them for Hunter and them from Wire Waffle. And Mike Holt put out a nice email as well just recently. It was shared with me I don't see it because I don't really subscribe to the newsletters, but it was shared to me. So I saw it. It's a really nice letter. Anything that helps Hunter and promote his business and do more business, I'm all for entrepreneurs, that type of thing. But Racketeer is the one pushing it. Racketeer has a big footprint. Sometimes Racketeer is known for pushing garbage stuff, some stuff. But at the end of the day, they get stuff out there. Okay, so I don't have any problem with that. So they're the ones that are marketing or pushing this product out for Hunter and them at Wire Waffle. Don't have a problem. This is not for everybody. Okay, this was designed to meet a need, right? And so it was put out there to meet a need, and that's it. If you can choose to use any electrical product you want, if it's listed for an application, you want to use it, you use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't use it. So in this scenario right here, they were promoting this or pushing this over on Instagram. And just an example, and I'll show you some examples here. The comments that came in for this product, when you start reading them, and these are mild compared to the other stuff that I see on social media. If it shows your name on social media today, hey, you get some free promotion. But this is code compliant. This is designed to meet an issue with 312.5c. Now, this all started, to be honest with you, and again, I got a bunch of hate mail this weekend. I guess one of my videos resurfaced of me and Cy Porter going at it over something they allow in Arizona. I can't help it if Arizona sucks. I can't help it if they say they have an amendment to allow you to take all the NM cables through one TA type of thing. I call bullshit because I know that Angry has contacted the localities and there is no amendment. It may be something that somebody allows, but that's no different than if something they may allow in your jurisdiction, even though the code says differently. They're just being allowed to do it. Well, I don't worry about that because I only teach nationwide. I teach the National Electrical Code. I don't give a rat's ass about an amendment. I don't give a rat's ass about a local inspector who says that's okay. I can't see it from my house. I don't care about that. I'm going to tell you what the code is. If you have a jurisdiction that allows something to deviate from it, well, good for you. It has nothing to do with the National Electrical Code. I only teach the NEC. So when you get in an argument, like Cy wants to get in an argument with me, he can never win because I teach the code. I talk code. I don't care what you may see or what you allow. But when you do videos and you call stuff out like it's a violation or not, or it's something that's okay, that's not necessarily true unless you quantify that an inspector or a group allows that in your location specifically, but don't say it geographically that it's okay for the entire state because we have letters that state otherwise. Angry Sparky's got letters that says otherwise. Okay, so anyway, that's how that started. So the guy came up with this. So before I get into the names and shout outs and all that kind of stuff to everybody, again, thank you all for joining us. I want to go real quick and show you this because it just perplexes me. Okay, the nature of people's commenting. So let me go over there and look. So here we go. So this was Rocketeer's post, by the way. Okay. They posted this here, and showing some videos of it, and so here you'll see my comments on it. And here's a guy that's talking about this right here, okay, and he goes, "I see no difference," right? And then he's got comments, he says, "I see no difference," and I go, "Okay, well, around your area, the inspectors are clearly uneducated." As he's saying, in my area, it's code, okay? As long as you do all that. Well, okay, well, good for you. But that is not okay. He goes, "Okay, chief," whatever. So let's see. Here one says, "You need a better electrician to advise your product." Really? Really? So they're going to knock a guy who came up with a solution to an issue that people have been violating forever? Okay? And of course, I tell them you need to learn the code. Hey, no shame in my game, buddy. I'm not here to make friends. I don't care whether here's the other big thing. And this is funny. I'll get haters or send me stuff. They'll post stuff. First of all, you'll never see it. And they say, well, you don't allow comments on your stuff. Yeah, because for every great comment we have a dweeb that wants to comment. Why would I do that? Why would I let people do that? Well, I'm not after the clicks, right? I'm not after the sensationalism of having that type of debate. I don't care about that. I don't care. Somebody says, well, so-and-so has 500,000 followers and you have 40,000 on this platform. You're a nobody. I never wanted to be anybody. I'm just teaching the code. You have a choice not to follow me. Thing is, I'm not going to cater to anybody. I don't care. Follow me or not. A lot of people watch Naked and Afraid, and that's one of the stupidest shows I've ever seen. First of all, who's going to be naked, stuck out in the middle of nowhere with nothing? That's the stupidest damn show I've ever seen. I know it's people like to watch it, but it's stupid. It's not realistic. Well, these people that post a lot of videos, like Cy, for example, is calling out obvious stuff that anybody could call out. And he's looking at new homes. I would hope you would call these things out. It's not brain surgery. I know a lot of home inspectors that are much better than that dude. But they don't go trying to get 100,000 people. They also don't get letters from their local board reprimanding them either. Okay, so I'm just saying the normal home inspector doesn't get that kind of stuff. I'm just saying. Anywho, you go over and look at some of these comments. Let's kind of look at some. What did he say to me? Look at this one said right here. This one. Chris O007 says, "Master, you need to relearn the NEC." Really? Really? So, Chris, what have you done lately for the NEC? What code books have you written? What code panels do you sit on? What articles have you written? What courses have you taught, Chris? love this stuff. I just laughed. I said, "You fool." Let's see here. Literally the same thing. Look at it's no, no, still looks sloppy as shit. It's okay. And I'm sitting there going, as opposed to the alternative, right? If you want to use this and bring it in, you like this versus that, this, 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 this versus using this. I don't get it. If you choose to not do it because you don't like it, then don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Don't use it if you want. It's amazing to me. The comments. Let's go down here. Look at here. Look at this one right here. So this one here, what is it? VW Rab. There you go. There's this. So got there you go. Got 76 posts in his lifetime. Okay, says hell's no, still bundling. In my opinion, still looks like trash. Right? And let's see here. So he says, tell this guy posts, I love it. Paul Diggins says, so tell me you don't know what bundling is without telling me. It's right. So clearly, somebody doesn't have an understanding of what bundling is and what the definition of bundling is. And obviously, they've never cracked the code book open and looked at 334.80. They've never looked at 310.15c. They have no idea what bundling is. Now, if I'm bundling cables for over 24 inches without maintaining spacing, then I got a bundling issue. If I'm bringing cables, NM cables, through a top plate, right, and it's going to be filled with insulation, foam, whatever it may be, then I've got issues. It's not bundling. I got issues based on the rules in 334.80 that I have to meet. It's going to reduce the ampacity of those conductors. Okay? So to just call out and say it's bundling, and that's what you're going to hang your hat on? You think that how is that any different in your mind when you bring it through? You're okay to bring it through a TA. You're okay with that, right? But you're not okay with it coming through a product that separates or forces a separation of cables. The code doesn't say how far it needs to be separated in order to be able to be separated, right? It just amazes me that people will go, even today, will just go on social media. And this guy just goes, no. Doesn't know why he's no, he just no. Let's see here. What else do we got? Let's see here. I'm not even going to get into that one. Let's see here. Normally I just beg Inspector pretty please and let me put them all in one conduit. Let's see here. Anyway, there's tons more here, and you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that does get posted on these things. Let's see. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you. I am, and I could go on and on and on about these different things, but it still just amazes me those type of things, that you run into. Totally amazes me. So anyway, let's go to some shout outs real quickly, and we'll get into today's lesson. Let's see here. Let's do some shout outs. Good morning, Paul. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Jonathan's in the house. Good morning. Glad to have you here, Jonathan. Let's see what else we got here. We got Adrian. Good morning, Adrian. Glad to have you here. Watching over on the YouTube channel. It is Hump Day, so welcome everybody to Hump Day. Adam, shouting it out. Adam, Hump Day, good morning. We are all well and safe. What's up, Tino? I don't know if you're the only Tino here today, but good morning. Let's see here. Where are we at here? Let's go a little further. Let's see here. What's up, Felix? Okay. And Doug, if you do have a question on it, send it to us at paulabernathy.com. But you're going to have to be very descriptive because I'm a bit dubious of whether or not they're actually asking you a neutral calculation for medium voltage. So if you remember the question, go to paulabernathy.com and submit it, and we will give you an answer for it. So if you do want to learn it, but we're not going to get in it, we're not going to even try to get in it on today's lesson. We have if you read the title, this is services and electrical equipment, and medium voltage typically is going to be outside the scope for that application. What's up, Manny? Good morning. Glad to have you here. Good morning, Rob. Glad to have you here. And as far as neutral calculations, we've done that many times on our show. What's up, Terrence? Good morning. Adam, Fast Tracks, thanks for joining. Rob, thanks for joining, Rob. Glad to have you here. Mike, thanks for joining, Mike. Glad to have you here. Let's see here. What we got here? Leroy, thanks for joining, Leroy. Glad to have you here. Good morning, Peter. Glad to have you here this morning, joining us for the show. What's up, Edgar? Edgar, glad to have you here. Gregory, glad to have you here. What's up, ATMs in the house? Glad to have you here. Let's see here. Good morning, Angel. Glad to have you here. Red Dog is in the house.
Woo, 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 woo. Big dog.
What's up? High Voltage Hands is in the house. Glad to have you here. What's up, other Tino? Glad to have you. RGV, Distinction. What's up, Greg? Glad to have you here. Good morning, Brandon. Glad to have you here, my friend. And let's see here. Rob, good morning. Rob says, you have an HJ. Tell us once that you need to add a third NM or 2NM cables that were already stapled. You could zip tie. I got to do it again. Sorry about that. You could zip tie the third NM cable to the staple cable. So I guess the question is supporting non-metallic sheath cable. We have staples that are designed for one cable, staples that are designed for two cables. Typically, it's going to be on the cable box. I don't have a problem with taking a staple and putting a tie wrap through the staple. Staple is a product that's designed for this type of application of supporting cables and things like that. So whether or not you want to tie wrap, take a tie wrap and feed it through a staple and then tie wrap your cables, as long as you're not, we're doing a bundling thing, means all the way down. Okay, you're not that type of thing. Then I don't have a problem with that. I really don't have a problem with you using a staple and stapling and having it hold down two cables, let's say, if it's listed for that, or that's what you have, and then using the staple to tie wrap other cables to it. I have no problem with that. People say, well, then why did you have a problem with a nail? Because the nail itself is not for this application unless the nail is used as part of something that's part of the electrical equipment. In other words, the nail goes with it, or you nail up a box or something like that. That's different. If you're using just a nail and you're going to be connecting a tie wrap to a nail, then again, you do you, but that's not really what that nail was designed for. Really wasn't. So they say, well, what's the difference with the staple? Well, the staple is designed, this case, to secure cables, that type of thing. And you're using a tie wrap with it. As long as you're not exceeding any bundling issues and you are not maintaining spacing for over 24 inches, then you do have a bundling issue, that type of thing. So other than that, I wouldn't care if they did that. In fact, I prefer you do that unless you're going to use something like a stacker, that type of thing. Let's see. What's up? Good morning, Haas, for the win. Anselmo, welcome. Jay, what's up? Now, I get each AHJ can be different. What's up, Erie? Glad to have you here. Let's see here. Cray-Cray's in the house. Hump day. That's what I'm talking about. Got a lot of wins coming out. Love it. Let's see here. Tony says, what do you got here, Tony? Humboldt, Colorado wireman, exam on the 8th time. 8th time, huh? Today is Colorado. And I have absolutely, God, these long posts, absolutely refused to give me a paper copy in a year of me yelling. All right. PSI has given me exactly 20% the first 5 exams, knowledge and devices. Absolutely impossible. I'm going to sue them. Well, you do that, my friend. I can't help you with that. I could teach you the NEC. I don't believe you're a fast track student, so I can't comment whether you're in a structured program or not. You may be just learning on your own, but I don't know. Can't comment on that. What's up, Jay? Absolutely. I agree. What's up, Adam? Looking forward to using the wire waffle. We're going to get it to you. Let's see. Let's see here. Good morning, new place. Let's see. You won the NFC drawing yesterday, John. You got in on the drawing. Okay, I got your emails. I'm not sure what you thought you won instantly because it said right there on the screen, drawing is June 30th. So let's see here. But we don't give any courses away instantly, so could have been no course. Let's see. What's up, Van Man? I'm doing well. Wife is doing good. We're still plugging along. So again, I appreciate it. What's up, Joseph? Good morning. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Started to listen to. Oh, you found it. Okay, good. It's was a 4-part series on 695. So absolutely. Let's see here. But yep, Doug, just send it. Try to send that question in to paulabernathy.com, not the email. You just go to the website, paulabernathy.com, and be as descriptive as you can on what you remember. And we'll try our best. I'll try my best to help you out with that. What's up, Franklin? Welcome. Glad to have you here. Good morning, Angel. I am doing good. Glad to have you here. What's up, Alex? Glad to have you here, my friend. Wow, we have a lot of people in here. You won a register. You didn't win anything, John. I don't want to ban you. You didn't win anything, but you are registered for an NFC card. Hopefully, you'll win on the 30th. Maybe you'll win that card. Okay, but if you think you won a course, then you're mistaken because we don't give any courses away. Only on the drawings do we give courses away. What's up, Kendra? Down in Denver today, training. There you go. Glad to have you with us. All right. Okay, so let's get into today's lesson, and we'll get some stuff going on today. So let's see here. Okay, let's get into today's lesson. Okay, so we're picking up today on the lesson, and we're going to talk. We're now moving into common trip single pole breakers. So talking a little bit about those. So circuit breakers, especially if you're going to use something like a multi-wire branch circuit, it's so important that you disconnect. If you're doing a multifamily, you're going to have two phases sharing a neutral. You want to make sure that simultaneously disconnect, right? All right, so circuit breakers must open all ungrounded conductors of a circuit both manually or automatically unless permitted in 240.15b1 through B4. And that is in 240.15b. So we're going to look at that and see what it's talking about. And let's see here. So we're talking about just circuit breakers. And we're going to look at 240.15. Let's move this down. Okay, so here is your circuit breaker as overcurrent devices. Circuit breakers shall open all ungrounded conductors of the circuit, both manually and automatically, unless otherwise permitted in 240.15b1, b2, b3, b4. Okay, so you've got, here's a multi-wire branch circuit we talked about that I just mentioned. All right, so individual single pole circuit breakers with identified handle ties, that's important. If you're on an exam, low-hanging fruit, identified handle tie, not a piece of wire, not a screw, not a 632 stuck through there with a nut on the end of it, right? Even though they probably work, that's not going to work. It's got to be identified handle tie. It says shall be permitted as a protection for ungrounded, each ungrounded conductor in a multi-wire branch circuit that serves only single phase line to neutral loads. So it's a multi-wire branch circuit, leg A, leg B, they're sharing a neutral. Okay, so those are line to neutral loads. All right, so I'm allowed to do that, and I can use two singles if I want to do that, as long as I have an identified handle tie. Right? And then you have other different allowances down here, but that's the main one. Again, this is just talking about grounded single phase alternating currents. It says in a grounded system, individual single pole circuit breakers rated 120/240 volt AC with identified handle ties, you have that again, shall be permitted as the protection of each ungrounded conductor in a line-to-line connected load for single phase loads. Okay, so you can have a line-to-line. I can use two individual single poles. Okay, as long as they're rated 122/40. Okay, so it is rated for each one is rated 120 to ground, and then of course it's also rated line-to-line 240. So that is the slash rated breaker. Okay, it's a 122/40, not a straight rated, just one voltage. It's a slash rated. Okay, so as long as it's individual single pole breakers or slash rated 122/40, and they have an identified handle time, then I could use two single poles. Easiest thing, I guess, for us is to look at this example picture, and I'll try to blow this up if I can a little bit. Okay, so we have right here. This is a two-pole breaker right here. One two-pole breaker, common trip. They look familiar. Some of the brands can have just one breaker switch on it, and then some could look like they're two separate breakers, but they're actually molded together. This is line-to-line applications, and this is line-to-line applications. Here's the application where you have two single pole breakers. Again, side by side is okay as well if it has an identified handle tie for line-to-line loads. That's like 240-volt loads. But then also you can have two single pole breakers with identified handle tie between them, and it can handle line to neutral loads for a multi-wire branch circuit. Okay, so again, y'all are probably way familiar with this. Now, again, y'all know the reason why in a multi-wire branch circuit it's so important to either use a two-pole breaker or to use, if you choose to use two single poles with an identified handle tie, is also it ensures that when the breakers are installed that they're on opposite legs because it alternates down the panel board, in the panel. So this allows for the neutral to carry only the maximum imbalanced loads. Okay, so if I have a 20 amp breaker and a 20 amp breaker, okay, these are 20 amp rated breakers, right? And so it's a multi-wire branch circuit, right? Then I'm pulling 20 amps and 20 amps. Again, it's a multi-wire branch circuit. The neutral is going to see 0. If this one is pulling 20 amps and this one's pulling 0, then the neutral is going to see what? Right? You guessed it. It's going to see 20 amps. So the maximum that the neutral could ever see is 20 amps. Because if there's 20 amps on this one and 20 amps on this one, then it's going to see 0. But conceivably, you could be pulling 0 on this one and the maximum of 20 amps on this one, then guess what? The maximum imbalanced load that this neutral could see in a multi-wire branch circuit is 20 amps. It couldn't see any more than that, okay? And if this one all of a sudden comes on, then the neutral is actually going to go down if you install it properly. And that's why you have it set up this way, okay? All right. And then, of course, just so we cover it, let's go back here. Let me see if I can't zoom this back out here. Okay. Here also for three-phase, people ask these questions all the time. It says for line-to-line loads in a 4-wire three-phase system or a 5-wire two-phase system, it allows individual single-pole breakers rated 122/40-volt AC with identified handle ties, okay, to be tied, handle ties shall be permitted as the protection for each ungrounded conductor. If the systems have a grounded neutral point and the voltage to ground does not exceed 120 volts. Okay, so example of this would be one of the systems where it's not being used on a delta high leg. Okay. So in this, because one of those legs to ground would exceed 120, right? So it's not going to be used on a delta high leg system. It might be a Y system, okay? The point being here is that in a three-phase system, I could use 3 individual circuit breakers with identified handle ties. It's going to work essentially the same thing. Not going to work when you have the delta. And then you got here a 3-wire direct current circuit if you're dealing with direct current applications, okay? All right, so that's kind of covering the aspects of when and when you can't. I think in most situations, taking the delta high legs out of it and buying those specific breakers, be careful. You also cannot use a breaker, for example, that is a straight rated on something that's not within the scope of its voltage rating. Just because it's convenient, you may have it in the truck, doesn't mean you can utilize it. Okay, so we have to be very, very careful in picking our breakers, that type of thing. So again, this is what we just looked at in the code just now. Okay, all right. Cartridge fuses and fuse holders. I don't know how much these. Again, I still see these used a lot. There's a lot of fire pump applications that I think Brandon's working on fire pumps that will still see fuse applications. A lot of times they're much easier to do selective coordination with fuses because of the ratings, and it's pretty easy. Whereas a circuit breaker, you have to look at the signatures and the trip curves and overlapping and things like that. Sometimes it can be just much easier with a fuse. So fuses must be plainly marked and printed on a label attached to the fuse barrel, as you see here, showing the following. It has to have the amp rating, the voltage rating, interruptive rating if it's other than 10,000. So you remember that the 5,000 for the circuit breaker, that's marked otherwise, and 10,000 for the fuses, okay, unless marked otherwise, okay? For current limiting, where applicable. So if you have current limiting fuses, it has to be marked as such, and you have non-current limiting and you have current limiting fuses. And the name or manufacturer trademark on the actual product, that type of thing. Wire and cable, we don't have to put our name on it. We could just leave an E number on it, that type of thing. And again, it's kind of hard to track something down with just an E number. But we could put something like that on it, or we may even put our logo or something like that on it. We don't put our logo on it. I wouldn't be able to see it that small, that type of thing. The interruptive rating is not required on fuses used for supplementary protection. Okay, so if it's like integral to a piece of equipment, it's not the main protection, it's supplemental. Okay, so the interruptive rating is not required on the fuses. Although I want to be honest with you, if they're like we are in the wire and cable business, we're not going to go out of our way to make special fuses for something and not put a rating on it unless that type. It's just one more step that we don't want to do. So probably going to choose standard, and it's probably going to have the interruptive rating already on it, even though it's being used probably as supplementary protection. Probably is, but just know that it's not required to have that interruptive rating marking on a fuse if it's being used as supplementary protection. Okay. Let's see here. Fuse holders are designed so that it is difficult to pull a fuse of any given class into a fuse holder intended for a current lower or voltage higher than that of the class to which the fuse belongs, 240.6b. This is also one of those things y'all heard me talk the other day about a 601. So a 601 is designed to go in let's say an 800 amp frame, but it's a 600, and so it is designed so it's can fit in there and be able to go in it, even though it's only 601. But it's designed so it fits into a larger frame. So a 601 is a standard. Y'all saw us in 240.6a the other day. That a 601 is a standard size, low-hanging fruit on an exam when they ask you different sizes on what is considered a standard. For example, in a fuse, and a 601 is a standard, that type of scenario. Okay, conductor sizing. Let's see. We got some questions that we can catch up with. Let's see here. Tino. Look, folks, you only win Fast Track's Wire Waffles instantly. It will say immediately all others your entry and win. Paul will give you the day. There you go. I appreciate it. Thank you, Tino. Absolutely. And we are slow with getting those emails out, but we started with the courses. So everybody should have gotten the emails already and are already registered in their courses. And we're slowly moving through the other things. There's a lot of moving parts to that type of thing. And Jeff's wearing a lot of hats. And Jeff is responsible for this as well, so he sends them. And so again, it takes a little bit to get everything that we got going on, but you'll get it. Don't worry. We're in it for the long haul. If you just came for the prize, then probably want to leave. I'm just saying. All right. So conductor sizing, let's talk about conductor sizing a little bit. We have talked about this before, but again, we're talking about all these things. We're rehashing things. We're learning. If you got any questions about the topic, please feel free to ask them. What does AJ says? Is anyone else struggling to get handle ties for 3-pole stuff? Are you struggling? Okay. I'm not aware of it, but maybe, again, supply and demand has been kind of difficult. I've heard from different people. I'm quite shocked that some of the stuff is taking so long for people to get now that we've been out of COVID now for a couple of years, Okay. Let's see. Quick question for the hog. Do you have to bond a metal rough on a home? A metal rough. I'm not sure what a metal rough is on a home. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're asking, Adam. I'm sorry. Go to Trade Hog and ask Trade Hog. All right. So for one family dwellings and individual dwelling units of 2-family and multi-family dwellings, services and feeder conductors supplied by a single phase 120 240 volt system shall be permitted to be sized in accordance with 310.12 A through D. Okay. So you're allowed to use 310.12. You heard us talk about this many times. This is the 83% rule that we talk about, that type of scenario. So you're allowed to be able to use this 83%. This is for the conductor sizing, right? So it's a minimum size for the conductors. And you also saw yesterday that we did have an allowance also when it came to the overcurrent protection in 230.90 to be able to use the 83% and still consider it being protected from overload. And that wasn't a problem, okay? Even though it may be smaller conductors than what the breaker is that they're terminating into, okay? We saw that yesterday, so make sure you go back and watch that part if it's confusing. All right, so we get to use 310.12 A through D, right? And it says for a service rated 100 amperes through 400 amperes, so that's another caveat in 310.12. It has to be a rating that's between 100 and 400, okay? And it says the service conductor supplying the entire load associated with the one family dwelling, or the service conductor supplying the entire load associated with the individual dwelling unit in a 2-family or multi-family dwelling shall be permitted to have the ampacity not less than 83% of the service rating. If no adjustment or correction factors are required, then you can simply go to the table and do that. Now, I will show that when we go here. So getting here to 310.12, since that's what we're talking about. So this is the 83% rule that you heard people talk about. And people ask me on exam, they say, when can I use the 83% rule when sizing the service conductors or feeders, as long as that feeder, again, is supplying something that panel that's going to be handling 100% of the loads, then that feeder can be sized exactly the same way and limited to, it doesn't have to be larger than 83%. Now, bear with me. It looks like Link is doing its thing. It is locking me out again. Okay, so let's see here. Let me log out and log back in. Good old Link. Bear with me. Okay. Guess it wants to make sure that I'm not stealing it or something like that or whatever. Trust me, I pay for it. All right. So here's 310.12 single phase dwelling units, and we're talking services. And oh, by the way, it also applies to one family dwelling and individual dwelling units of 2-family and multi-family, single phase consisting of 2 ungrounded conductors and a neutral from a 208Y120 shall be permitted to be sized in accordance with 310.12 A through C. The reason you can't use D is because that's for the grounded conductor. And since we're only pulling partial conductors from a 3-phase, so the 2 hots and a neutral being derived from it, then you will have a situation where the neutral can carry equal to or greater than any current that the phase conductors could carry. So we don't get to meet the allowances of D. So typically an engineer will just full size the grounded conductor in that scenario if it's happen to be dealing with a 208-120 system that's being derived, a single phase 208-120 that's being derived from a 3-phase system. They'll typically not want to reduce the size of the grounded conductor. But in residential, not a problem, because we already know that it's going to only carry the maximum imbalance load. So again, and we have some allowances already from a manufacturer's perspective when it comes to like an SC cable. Typically, the grounded conductor, I don't know if you know this or not, the grounded conductor in an SC cable, the standard UL 854 allows it to be no more than 2 sizes smaller than the ungrounded. That's why you'll see a 4-aught aluminum, let's say, and it'll have a 2-aught helical or a 2-aught grounded conductor, because the standard will allow us to go up to 2, because again, we know that in those type of systems, it's only going to carry the maximum imbalance load. So could you full size it? Absolutely. Can you buy cables with the grounded conductor full sized? Absolutely, you can. That type of thing, right? But typically an SEU, okay, with the 2 conductors and the helical grounded conductor, the helical wrap around it, it's kind of gray and it looks like a U when you turn it on the side. That's a type U. Typically that helical that you make up yourself, that's only going to be equivalent to about a 2-aught. And it should be fine for most applications, but you still need to do a load count, okay? All right. So here's that service we were talking about right here, using 310.12. There's A for services. It's got to be within 100 to 400. And again, I'll remind you, it doesn't matter whether you use a standard method or the optional method. Whatever gets you between that 100 and 400 amps, okay, will trigger on whether or not you get to use 310.12. It's not specific to standard method. Okay, that's another misconception that people have. And so it says the service conductor supplying the entire load associated with the one family dwelling. So y'all have heard me talk about that. So just to kind of give you the visual when it says the entire load and when you can do this, okay? And I'll show you when you could do it anyway, but I'll show you this. Mental picture time. So if I was coming from a weatherhead and my SE cable, all that is running down the side of the house or side of the building and it's going into the meter, okay? And then it's coming out of the meter and it's hitting a panel on the outside. Say it's a main breaker, it meets the requirements, exterior emergency disconnect, it meets the requirements. It's the overcurrent protection, it's the overload protection, 230.90. Everything's fine. It meets 230.85 exterior emergency disconnect. So it's both. It's the emergency disconnect labeled as such. It's the service disconnect labeled as such. Okay, NEMA 3R, it's exterior. That panel has all the loads in it. Okay, every breaker that's associated with this dwelling. Then you can apply the 83% rule. And that means the service conductors never need to be larger than 83, but they can't be smaller than 83% of whatever the service rating is. And that's based on whatever the breaker is. If the breaker is a 200 amp, then it can't be, the service conductors cannot be less than 83% of that service rating. Can they be greater? Yeah. Can you size it to the full 200 amps if you want? It's not a problem. Okay. So if you don't have any adjustment or corrections involved, and I can promise you that probably none of you out there, there's always going to be one, but I promise you none of you out there actually probably take the ambient temperature into consideration wherever you're at. So you're out there in Arizona where it's really hot, and you're busy as a home inspector calling out all the cables that are not calling out all the cables because you're okay with it when you stick all of your NM cables through one opening, and you're okay with it in Arizona, but yet you're not calling out other things like ambient temperature and adjusting the ampacity for that and all that kind of stuff. Probably because you don't know, because you're like to get followers on social media, and because a breaker trips twice and you notice it, now you're an electrical expert and you do videos on it, you get a lot of followers, but you're so busy calling out obvious things that you don't look at the things that you should be calling out. Like, do you call out the ampacity change when it's an ambient temperature other than 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit? Do you? Probably not. And it doesn't bother you, but yet something like this would bother you, or lack thereof would bother you, or whatever, or calling out a crack in a sheetrock that can be easily fixed, but you call it out like a flaming violation, like the house is going to fall down or something, whatever. But the point being is, it can't be less. Now, if you're going to use the NEC here, then if there is no corrections or adjustment factors involved, then you just pull straight from this table. And this table's been added back to the code. Previously, it was back in the informative Annex D examples, right? But it's made it back now for 2 cycles. It's been in 310.12. And so here you can just come, so if it's 200 amp, boom, right here. 200 amp, if that's what the service or feeder rating is, then it's a 2-aught copper or a 4-aught aluminum. And that's probably what y'all all buy anyway. For a 200 amp, you'll probably use aluminum. Okay, most people for the SE cables are just going to buy aluminum. They'll get a 4-aught aluminum, and I can promise you, it's hard to believe. Some of these states still aren't adopting things, or they have these. Yeah, don't get me started. I don't get it. Different states, but anyway. So there you go. And so typically in that SE cable, the grounded conductor will be no more than 2 sizes smaller than that, which would be 4-aught, 3-aught, 2-aught. So that's why you have 2 4-aughts and you'll have a 2-aught. That's typically, in case you didn't know, that's typically what a manufacturer will do. That type of thing. All right, so that's that. Now, if you have to do an adjustment or correction, note, and this was my code proposal a couple years ago in order to clarify this, because there was so much confusion in here that I wanted to make it clear. So I submitted this is to make it clear that you can only use this table if there's no adjustment or corrections involved. If there's an ambient temperature issue that needs to take place, okay, correction for that, or an adjustment for more than 3 current carrying conductors, then this table is useless. Okay, but on an exam, unless they tell you otherwise, then you always will use this allowance in 310.12. It is not an exception. This is a rule. This is code. So again, that's kind of things. And if they ask you a question and they're telling you the ampacities and it's falling between 100 and 400, they're telling you that it's single phase, 120, 240, all these buzzwords, then you know what, and then they ask you what the conductor sizes minimum has to be, then you know that they're trying to get an answer based on 310.12, okay? And it's very much applicable. It's not an exception, okay? So now if you want to know how to size this stuff, if there's an adjustment or correction, then just like Brandon, I encourage you, go watch our video on derating demystified, because I'll go into all of adjustment and corrections. And by the way, how you do this is no different than how you would do the adjustment and corrections for branch circuits or feeder applications. It's no different. Follows the same principles, okay? At the end of the day, you still have to make sure that after the adjustment or correction, that you still have a conductor that is not less than what? 83% of the service or feeder rating, okay? Very important to still remember that. The 83% doesn't go away, okay? If you want to use this rule. Now, can you ignore this and just size it based on 310.16? Absolutely, you can. If that's your prerogative, you most certainly can. But again, handling the entire load. So if I had that weatherhead, I guess I was going to give you an example. Again, I had that weatherhead, I come down, I hit a meter, and then I hit a panel. All the loads are in that panel, you're good to go. All the way up to the weatherhead, it can't be less than 83% if you want to use this allowance. Now, what if I come down and I go through the meter and I hit an exterior panel, okay, and it has a main breaker, okay, and is your service disconnect, okay, and then at the bottom, right, at the bottom it has feed-through conductors and they're going into an interior panel. And so outside there's maybe only 4 or 5 or, well, not 5, maybe 8 breaker spaces, okay? And so the reason you did that is because right there is where your air conditioning unit, it made sense. What I'll do is I'll put breakers in there, I'll pop out of that panel outside and feed those air conditioning units. Why have to go from the panel inside and come back out? I'm already right here, right? Well, if that's the case, those conductors that are coming out of that panel, that are going into the actual dwelling, all right, are not seeing 100% of the loads for that dwelling. So that conductor going out cannot be based on the 83%. However, it does not have to be larger than what would be sized for the service conductors, okay? So obviously it doesn't have to be larger than what would be sized, but I guess what runs into some equations would be where we have the panel outside, right? and you're doing some loading outside, and for some reason, the feeder conductor going inside ends up being, based on your calculation, ends up being a larger conductor than what is outside that's supplying the actual dwelling. And that's not, there's no reason to have a feeder that's larger than what you would have calculated to handle the dwelling, right? And so where do we see that? So let's go to the NEC real quick. All right, and here, and this is this right here, feeder ampacities. Okay, whoops, I don't know if you can see it right here. The feeder ampacities, okay? All right, it says, so in no case shall the feeder for an individual dwelling unit, okay, be required to have an ampacity greater than that specified in 310.12a or b. So if I have a feeder going out to an individual dwelling unit, okay, then again, it is not required to be larger than what would have been required per calculating in 310.12a or b. So that's just saying, you know, that feeder going out, there's no sense in making that much larger than the calculation you would have had supplying it upstream. It makes no sense to do that. Let's see here. Robert, what does Robert say? 2 sizes less is just a cable rule. It's just a rule. So that's just part of UL 854, for example, where when we make it as a manufacturer, we can't make it smaller than 2 sizes for the cable assembly. It's part of the cable assembly. We don't know what somebody's going to use it for, so we're restricted to that type of thing. Now we can make all kinds of cables, but typically that's the standard that we can't follow below. As far as what you pull in a raceway, you pull whatever you want as long as it's designed to handle the calculated load and you're meeting the minimum sizes. Like for neutral, you got to meet 250.24, which ultimately is going to send you to 250.102C. And you're going to, as long as that's not less than that and taking into account your neutral loads and your allowances in 220.61, as long as you take all that into consideration, yeah, your neutral could be smaller than 2 sizes than your ungrounded hot conductors, yes. But just not in a cable assembly like an SC cable because it's pre-made for you. And we have to, as a manufacturer of cable, we have to follow certain rules, that type of thing, okay? All right, where was I at? All right, so let's look at this right here, get a good understanding of what we got going on, right? So it shall also be permissible to use table 310.12a to size feeder conductors, okay? So as we said, there's also a B. There's an A for service, there's a B for feeder. Okay, size feeder conductors if they supply the entire load associated with the one family dwelling, okay? So in this illustration, it is not permissible to use table 310.12 to size these feeders conductors because they do not supply the entire load associated with the dwelling. Now, this is a good example right here. This is just convenience, right? So here is your meter. Here's your panel. We'll say this is emergency disconnect, so it meets 230.85. It's labeled, everything like that. Okay, good. Let's just say we got everything okay. So now this right here going down, this is going to a 100 amp panel inside. And here's your panel here. And then we see this running over here, right? And this is 100 amp, and it did this, all this for convenience, okay? So this is your main panel, okay? So again, this would be a remote distribution panel, and obviously we sized this. This is a 100 amp panel board, sized it appropriately, right? And I guess it's being fed by here, right? 100 amp. And then over here is, I guess this is another 100 amp, and this is feeding this right here, okay? Now, interesting. These right here, since these are not feeding the entire load, you know, this right here, disconnect, this right here is feeding the entire load. This would be fine for 83%. This is just an example where these would not, right? Could not use the 83% on these. So these would be full-sized, okay? Full size to the 100 amps, okay? A lot of people do get confused and say, well, I'm going to use the 83% rule on these as well. And the only time that comes into play is when you're buying like these cables from Home Depot or Lowe's, and you're trying to achieve 100 amps, that type of thing. Okay, and you say, well, I can use the 83% rule for something like that. And the answer to that is no, you can't. Not for those. And again, my better example of when you can use the 83% for the feeder, my better example is if I came from the weatherhead and I came down to a meter and I came over and I hit a disconnect. And it was a service disconnect. It's kind of like the 200 amp ones, the NEMA 3R ones. It's just a service disconnect. That's all it's in there is the main breaker. And so anything on the load side of that is a feeder, right? Right? So in that scenario, I'm passing through it and it's coming through, and that is the service disconnect outside, and it's coming out with a feeder. That feeder is hitting a panel inside the dwelling that is handling 100% of the load, 100% of the load, right? Then guess what? Then I can use the 83% rule on those service conductors coming down and on that feeder going through, because the panel inside is handling 100%, the entire load of the dwelling. So that's how that works, okay? Mr. Negative One asking for a friend. I have no idea. All right, so let's see here. Let's see what else we had. Okay, so sizing of the conductors here. Let's get back to the lesson. The grounded neutral conductor can be smaller than the ungrounded hot conductors if, again, as we said earlier, if 215.2, 220.61, you heard me call these references out earlier, and 230.42 requirements are met. Okay, so got to handle the neutral load. Have to take into consideration into 230.42 if we have any continuous loads at 125% and non-continuous loads at 100%. Typically not an issue in a residential application for that to be too much of a concern. There's not really any continuous loads that are not specifically bound to the branch circuit applications, like for water heaters and things like that. So you don't use those in the service. Those are for the branch sizing of conductors and overcurrent. So typically, it's very common to have the neutral conductor to be smaller than the hot conductors. It's only in that cable assembly that we limit you, that type of thing. Okay. Let's see here. Next, it says the grounded conductor shall not be smaller than specified in table 250.102C1 as referenced in 250.24D1. You heard me reference that a minute ago. Okay. And then it says the feeder conductors to a dwelling unit shall not be required to have an allowable ampacity greater than specified in 310.12A or B. This is just saying, look, if you're running that feeder to an individual dwelling unit, that you don't have to have it be larger than what the calculation requirement would have been in 310.12. You still have the caveat that that dwelling unit has to, that panel that's being supplied by that feeder has to handle 100% of that load. So you still have to meet the rules. Okay, so you're running that feeder to that dwelling unit, that all the loads have to be within that dwelling unit. Okay. What does he say here? Mr. Negative says, is it permissible to mount EMT or outlet receptacles to a pallet racking? You can't mount anything unless what you're mounting it to is designed to be able to support that load. So your best advice is to reach out to the manufacturer and see. It's just like when people have a cable tray and people want to use the bottom of the cable tray to support raceways, to support boxes. You need to reach out and ask the manufacturer if it's designed to support that type of thing. Okay. So if it is, it is. If it's just like you can't take a cable can't support another cable. A raceway can't support a cable unless that raceway is identified to be used as a support for other wiring methods. And it may or may not be, but you'd have to reach out to the manufacturer and ask them. Okay? You don't just assume anything. Okay. And I would choose a different name if I were you. Kind of seems like that's just I don't know. All right, so the next one, conductors' ampacities are found in table 310.16. Conductor sizes are expressed in American wire gauge, as y'all know, or circular mills. So once you get up to 4/0, okay, you'll go to chapter 9, table 8 to see your circular mills, right? And then when you get over that, it's expressed in circular mils. 250 kc mils, 250,000, 300 kc mil is 300,000, K being 1,000, cm being circular mil, that type of thing. All right, installation. Electrical equipment must be installed in a professional and skillful manner. 110.12. It used to say workmanlike and all this kind of other stuff, but again, it's now professional and skillful manner. Again, eye of the beholder. One of those things where you're going to have to, play heavily on the AHJ and what they look at and that type of thing. But again, using some common sense. If it looks crappy, it looks crappy. But to have something like this, the wire waffle, which gives you an alternative to a violation in the code. Okay. And for craps and giggles, for all of those haters out there that say that the code doesn't say anything about that, by the way, then I'm like, where is it in the code? Where is it in the code that says that, Paul? All right, so let's look at 312.5 real quickly so I can just show those people out there. So this is for cabinets, cut-up boxes. Okay, a cabinet obviously is where the cables are coming into your cabinet. Okay, so it says cable assemblies and insulated conductors entering enclosures within the scope of this article shall be protected from abrasion and comply with 312.5 A through C. So it says it shall comply, mandatory requirement. Okay, so cables, C. So all you out there that are bringing all of those cables through the back of a TA, like Mr. Porter out there in likes to see out there in Arizona, it says where cable is used, each cable shall be secured to the cabinet, cutout box, or meter socket enclosure. There is one exception to this rule. And to meet this exception, you have to follow all of these rules. Not one of them, not a couple of them. You got to meet all these rules. Okay? So cables with entirely non-metallic sheathing shall be permitted, okay? Permissive rule, so permissive, to enter the top of a surface-mounted enclosure through one or more of the non-flexible raceways. Top, not back, top, okay? All right. Next, through one or more non-flexible raceways, not less than, second fact, not less than 18 inches. Second requirement. Third, and means it's got to include this and that. It's not an or. And not more than 10 feet in length. So the raceway that these cables come into, through the top, it's got to be at least 18 inches, not more than 10 feet, okay? Provided all of the following conditions are met. Again, he can argue all he wants. He can say it's what we're allowed to do in Arizona. I don't care about Arizona. I really don't. I could care shitless about Arizona. I'm teaching you code. This is code. Whether you like it or not, it's code. All right? Now, each cable that enters is fastened within 12 inches, measured along the sheathing, not just measured, it's along the sheathing, okay, of the outer edge of the raceway. The raceway extends directly above the enclosure. It does not penetrate a structural ceiling, okay. A fitting is provided on each end of the raceway to protect the cables from abrasion, and the fitting remains accessible after the installation. Hard to do that in the wall, coming in the back, by the way. Next, the raceway is sealed or plugged with at the outer end using approved means so as to prevent access to the enclosure through the raceway. Fill it, okay? A lot of times they do that. I don't have a problem with that. The cable sheathing is continuous. Don't rip it off. Don't take it off. I see that a lot from people as well. Continuous through the raceway and extends into the enclosure beyond the fitting, not less than 1/4 of an inch. We're familiar with that rule. It says the raceway is fastened at its outer end and the other point in accordance with the applicable article. Means you're following the rules for the raceway. If it's PVC, whatever it is, you secure it everything fastened into place. You do everything you're supposed to per the specific article for that wiring method. And then it says, or installed as conduit or tubing, the cable fill does not exceed the amount that would be permitted for a complete conduit or tubing by Table 1, Chapter 9 of this code, and all applicable notes thereto. Note 2 of this table in Chapter 9 does not apply to this condition. So you still have fill requirements if you're going to do this. Still have fill requirements. So, for him to go on social media with his plethora of followers, I don't care whether he has 1 million followers, he looks like an ass to argue with a code person because he's wrong. I don't care what Arizona allows. In fact, Angry proved he was wrong, and he's just embarrassed. And it's okay. It's okay to be wrong, fella. It's not a big deal. You're not an electrician. You're not as skilled as we are. You don't know, and that's okay. That's okay. You're a home inspector. I respect that. I've taught thousands of home inspectors, but you're not an electrician. Stop playing one, okay? Stick to what you know. Stick to your lane, okay? All right? All right? Okay, enough of that. All right. All electrical equipment, internal parts, bus bars, wiring, terminals, insulators, etc., must remain undamaged and uncontaminated by foreign materials. Paint, plaster, cleaner, abrasive, corrosive residues, etc. How many times have you guys been in, and I was real anal about this, that I made sure that when I put my panels in a wall, that I put the cover, I cut out, this usually they have a little cutout, I cut it out and I would put it in there because, you know what, I did not rely on the fact that every painter or plasterer or sheetrocker or mudder, there was a video going around on I think it was Instagram, where the guy threw the mud in the box. I know he's being jokey, and I said paybacks are hell. But the reality is they're in there trying to get it done as quick as possible, and they could have some overspray, whether it's paint, plaster. You cannot, folks, just go in, and I know you say, oh, Paul, I'll do it anyway. Well, you do you, boo. But you cannot go in to a panel and have a bus that's a conductive bus and turn around and use a cleaner on it. We don't know what adverse effects. It usually has a coating on it, protective coating. You're wiping that off. We don't know what's in the chemicals you're using. Now, as far as cleaning off the enamel, I don't have a problem with the enamel part, the coating. I have a problem with the bus bars. I have a problem with the lugging. I have a problem with if you get spray on the breakers and it could affect their operation. Hell, if I know what's in the cleaner that you're using, much less what you spray on it. So I think it's the electrician's responsibility to make sure that you put your covers in there. Now, I can't stop when you put your you put your conductors and push them back in the box and they overspray or whatever. I'm going to be honest with you. Any of that material that gets onto your insulated conductors, I'm not so worried about, okay? Because general building products like sheetrock mud or all that kind of stuff are not going to have a detrimental effect on insulated conductors. They're not. And so people freak out about that. And if it gets on the conductive part, then you probably shouldn't have stripped it off before you pushed it back in the box. But you say, but Paul, what about the equipment grounds? They're bare. It's really not, bare conductors are an imperial metal. They're really not going to have that big of an issue on it. Okay. Now, if you have devices already installed and it gets all that spray on it, that's a different story, that type of thing. But I don't worry so much about it. But if you're overly concerned about it, push them back in nice and tight. Put your equipment grounds all the way back so it's basically blocked by your insulated conductors and whatever, that type of thing. Usually when you go to terminate it, you pull out your equipment grounds, and if there is any drywall mud that's stuck to it, it'll flake right off. It'll peel right off. It's not a big deal. But inside of equipment, getting spray or overspray or cleaner abrasives and things like that, you try to clean the buses, or worse than that, you leave breakers in there and they get sprayed with overspray or plaster or mud, whatever. You just need to replace them, okay? You just don't know what kind of reaction. And again, I only say this for reliability and you getting sued, okay? That type of thing. Because if some expert comes in and I can see that it's a bunch of overspray, or I can see that there's something that should have been cleaned off, or the buses were contaminated or something like that, or I see a bunch of other spray and then I notice that the buses have been cleaned, or whatever it may be, then we're going to shift the blame to you. And we're going to say, well, the electrician, yeah, then he's going to say, electrician's going to say, well, it was the sheetrocker. It was the painter. You had an obligation. Okay, most of those buses can be replaced. It's inconvenient, but most of those panel boards will screw right out and you could replace it. Or you could put something in to protect your work. It's your responsibility, okay? I'm just saying. People don't like to hear it sometimes, but I'll say it. Okay, let's see. All right, we're a little over today. Tomorrow we'll pick up on fuses. No, actually, we're going to finish fuses because we're going to start into the grounding aspects tomorrow. So we're going to talk about grounding and bonding and all that kind of bonding jumpers and all that. So we'll keep that for tomorrow. So let's finish today on fuse plugs, fuse holders, and adapters. Let's see here. Plug fuses of 15 amperes and lower rating are identified by a hexagonal configuration in the prominent location or the window. Okay, so you see these, it's hexagonal. I don't know if you can see this. Okay, so see this? I don't know if you knew that or not. There you go. There's the hex. And you see 16 to 30, we have round. Okay, so we'll go look at that to see if that is actually legit. Because again, I didn't really pay much attention to that. I never give that much of a thought. I can see that as a low-hanging fruit exam type question or something. You're like, well, how the hell do I care about that? Because I'm just buying the fuse. But let's see here. Let's go to general. Okay, and let's go to C. There you go. Right there. Hexagonal configuration. Okay, so Edison base, I guess we typically call these Edison base fuses, type of thing. It says plug fuses of 15 ampere or lower rated shall be identified by a hexagonal configuration on the window cap or other prominent part to distinguish them from fuses with a higher amperage rating. Well, there you go. Okay. There you go. All right. And so plug fuses rated 16 to 30 amperes are identified by means other than hexagonal configuration. Okay, so other means. Well, these look round, so maybe that's the other type of thing. And it says the screw shell on the plug type fuse holder must be connected to the circuit's load side. Okay, so the screw shell, right? So 240.50E. We'll look at that. 240.50E. Here's your screw shell statement right here. E. It says the screw shell of a plug type fuse holder shall be connected to the load side of the circuit. Absolutely. So it's coming through, coming down, connected to the load. Screw shell is going out, and it's going out to supply the load through the fuse itself. Okay, so coming in through the tab, going out through the shell. Also, by the way, this is 240.51 for Edison-based fuses. Okay. I do see these on exams. So the only reason I stopped here because I do see this classification. Plug fuses of an Edison-based type shall be classified as not over 125 volts and 30 amperes and below. So again, sometimes low-hanging fruit on exams when it asks you something about a Edison-based fuse, or it might give you want to know not the voltage maximum voltage rating on a 20 amp Edison base fuse. Okay, and you say, okay, well, what is it? Well, there it is right there. Okay. Let's see here. And plug fuses of the Edison base type can be used only as replacements for existing installations exhibiting no evidence of overfusing or tampering. Okay. And that was the exactly verbatim, I guess, from the NEC. Okay. All right, that's grounding by. Let's get to some giveaways today. Let me see. Did I miss anything? What is here? Adam says, Trade Hog for the win. Answered my question about bonding the metal roof on a home. Money well spent. All right, good deal. Let's see here. And then Mr. Negative, hopefully I answered your question. May not agree with it, but hopefully I answered it for you. Let's see here. Do any other questions? Okay, don't see any. So let's go some giveaways here. And okay, John, good luck, John. Okay, the only thing you could win instantly is Fast Tracks Tube subscription or a wire waffle. So let's give it out and see. And he also agrees with the great thought. It solves an issue. And that's what we like. We like issues that help get solved. It doesn't mean you have to use it, and you may not like it, but it does solve an issue. All right, Fast Tracks Tube. David, you may already have a Fast Tracks Tube subscription. We can extend it out a year from whatever today is. If you like, let me know, or we can spin again for you. Okay. Let's see here. Let's do it again. Just let me know. Just let me know, David. Oh, and Jeff did send me an email. The Minimalist Wallet email is going out today. So make sure you check your junk mail for those of you who won the Minimalist Wallet in the raffle. Let's see, Robert. Robert, is it Rail? Is that it? Okay, you're in the drawing on June 30th for the NFCs. And they are great for your use to help promote us, or you can reprogram it and promote your business with it. But it's still going to have coffee hour on the front. Okay? But you can change the NFC card if you choose. That's up to you. Put your business, put your link tree on it, put your website on it, put your pay portal on it. Whatever you have, you want to do a link tree with a bunch of your plumbing friends, mechanical builders, and all of you on one link tree for the customer, and then they can save it on their phone. It's great to make sure they call you back, okay, when they need to have services. David, do me a favor, send me an email and let me know what your username is over on Fast Tracks Tube, and I'm more than happy to do that. Just send me an email, let me know. That way we can get it taken care of. Here. Jonathan. All right, Jonathan. Jonathan Battles. Jonathan watches us on multiple channels, increases his odds. Way to go. All right, so this is conductor length card. You are in the drawing, my friend, for a conductor length card. Congratulations. And if you already have one, you may get that one at the same time you get the ones from the first quarter. I'm sorry we're slow on that. We have to work through the kinks, but Jeff is multitasking. We'll get it. Don't worry. And I will tell you something real quick. This won't help you, by the way. Just so y'all know. All right, say Beto B. You are in the drawing. Speak of the devil, you're in the drawing for a Minimalist Wallet. Okay, let me talk about real quick something, because sometimes people ask these kind of questions real quick for this wire waffle. I did have somebody ask me, Paul, they said, what if you're using this wire waffle, which you can use in the top, in the back, in the sides, in a dry location indoors? Great. What about if the panel's outside and it's mounted outside? Well, if the panel's mounted outside and your panel has the little nubs on the back, and so there's a gap between it, okay? Well, when this connects in, it has a lip. If this lip pushes all the way into the wall or is deeper, it's going to be deeper than a 1/4 inch, I can promise you that. And it goes in, yeah, you can email me on any platform. It doesn't matter, David, okay? and it goes in, and it goes into the wall, then you're okay with your NM cables passing through. If it snaps in and there's a gap between the finished wall and the actual connector, and there's a gap, to be honest with you, if any non-metallic sheath cable is not inbuilt in the structure or transferring into the enclosure and it's exposed, then it's a violation. Again, you have to follow the rules. You can't just pick and choose what you want. And while I'd love to say this solves every issue, there are always going to be little issues. Okay. And then of course, those in Arizona will say, well, Paul, we typically mount our panels outside. Well, I can't fix stupid. You're in an area where it's hot as hell and breakers are typically thermoreactive, and you're installing all this shit outside, then I can't fix stupid. But if you're installing it and this can go and this end of the connector is in the wall or goes back into the opening, then I don't have a problem with your transfer. Okay, that type of scenario, not going to be an issue at all. But if it's going in the back and there's a gap, okay, and then you got all your NM cables are actually outside of the building, then that is actually a violation of the National Electrical Code. Now, you do you, okay? And you're saying, well, that's why I put them all in a raceway. Well, you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. If one's a violation, then the other's a violation. Then you have to figure it out what you do, right? So in this scenario, it's not going to solve everything, okay? Everything. So if I had to give some advice, and Hunter doesn't watch our show, I'm sure, but somebody is going to come up with this product here. And what they're going to do is, since this has tabs on both sides, okay, so when this clicks into the panel this way, you've got this side that's still sticking out. Okay, you ready? This is how I think. I don't want nothing from this, right? Create a sleeve that goes over this with two little notches in it that snap onto this, that extend this out an inch or two, and sell it as an accessory sleeve. So that this sleeve, if you're going this through the wall, that they can snap it onto it. It's just basically just be a tube with the same openings on it, two little openings on either side that match this. And so you can snap on the extension and it goes inside and it would be able to extend. And then wouldn't have an issue. I wouldn't have an issue with that at all. Okay. So there you go, Hunter. I'm sure that other people will take credit for that, right? But it's how I think. And I like the concept, but you know what? You can take a product like this and make just a plastic tube with the two holes in it that will snap onto these little things the same way it snaps in a panel. Basically, it would just be two little squares at the end, and it basically you could push it on here and it would extend it 2 inches, right? And that would slide into the wall. That's how I think. I am certainly, yet I'm going to sure that I'm going to get bashed on every social media. I'm going to tell you what, guys, yesterday or last week, I got, everybody went to my YouTube channel that wanted to bash me, knowing I'm never going to show the comments. I got bashed. I guess Sai is out there re-promoting his video, trying to say that he's not wrong. He is wrong. Y'all saw he's wrong. I don't know how I can say it any other than that. It is a code violation. And that's all I ever said to the guy. When I did a video, I said it was a violation of the code. I didn't say it was a violation in Arizona. I didn't say anything. And he came to the defense of the electrician, who in himself admitted he was wrong. But they allow that there. I don't care. I'm just talking code. So I don't care. Again, let me just give a shout out to all the haters out there. I don't give a shit what you do in your city. I don't care what you do in your jurisdiction. I don't care what you do in your state. I don't give a rat's ass. All I care about is what the National Electrical Code says. If your state amends something or your jurisdiction amends something or your AHJ allows something and you want to do it, do it. I teach the NEC. I don't care about amendments. well, I care about it because that's where I work. Then you worry about it. I'm not worrying about it. So every guy that sends me a comment on YouTube or whatever and says, well, Sai's got 500,000 followers. He's more well known than you. Do you think I give a shit who knows me? Really? Dude, I help electricians. I don't give a shit about the wannabes. I don't care about the home buyers. I don't care about home inspectors. I don't care about those fanboys. I'm here to teach electricians how to be better electricians. All I care about, okay? That's it. All I care about. So if you want to keep doing it, all it really does for me is every time you post a comment like that, you know I'm not going to show it, but then I get to see what your username is and then I get to block you. And then you will lose access to all of my content because you know what? You know you're watching my content. We have way more people that view our stuff than subscribe to our stuff, right? I'm just saying, we know who you are. So again, I love it. Haters, I enjoy you watching my content. You're welcome. You're always welcome. But when you go on social media and you start running your mouth or you want to pick a fight with a code guy, Sai, you can't win that fight. You're wrong. And you've been wrong almost on all of your electrical stuff. Stay in your lane, bro. Stay in your lane. Get you a wire waffle. You know what you should be doing? Hunter should send you, okay? Hunter should send you a supply of wire waffle. Tell you what, Sai, or anybody watching, I'm sure you're going to share it with Sai. Sai, send me your address. Hey, I'll break bread with you, my friend. Send me your address. I'm not going to go look it up. Send me your address from you, and I will send you some wire waffles. There you go. Share some love, my friend, because that's what it's all about. All right, folks. That is it for today. I'm gonna let y'all go. We went over today, but I appreciate you coming. Sorry I ranted a little bit. Again, it enamors me the amount of hate that we have out there. And hey, I can dish it out just as equally. Okay, especially when I see people posting some stupid comments on social media. Some of you electricians that post that stuff on social media, you really should be ashamed of yourself. You're not doing the industry any justice by saying some of the crap you say, okay? I want a better industry. Stop saying stuff as this and that and not even posting a code reference. I will make you a promise. Anytime I say something is a violation, I will give you a code reference to back it up. You have my promise. And if I don't, call me out on it. I will give it to you. Code reference, okay? I'm not going to do a lesson on TikTok. I'm not going to teach you on Instagram. I'm not going to do that stuff because I don't like those platforms to teach. I'll let the people that do that want to be what's quote influencers do that. I'm not an influencer of anybody. I'm just a code guy. That's it. That's it. That's all I am, whether you agree or disagree with me. Okay, so I'm not getting into that social media garbage, but I will call you out, and I'll leave Angry to be the one to tear you up because he'll let me know, and we'll talk, and he'll tear you up. Okay, I'm just saying. All right, folks, join me tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to get into grounding and bonding, and we're going to talk about main bonding jumpers, and then we're going to also dip into remote distribution panels and the grounding electrode conductors and the connections for panels and remote distribution panels, and we're going to talk about the bonding at the service. So tomorrow is an episode you definitely want to capture, so make sure you bookmark it, subscribe, share it with others. Tomorrow is going to be a great episode on Thursday. So till next time, folks, stay safe. God bless.